what I figured we do now is take a break from the questions and give you a little bit of rest, Eugene, and do a walkthrough of the code of Inboxkitten. To do this, we're going to use Quad AI, our code search, to help you find the code you need faster. And I've already logged into my GitHub account, and I'm already associated with the Inboxkitten repo, so I can just go ahead and search it right away. It's already been indexed by Quad AI using our AI models. And to get started and to better understand Inboxkitten, what I figured we'd do is go over the API endpoints. And Quad AI has already identified those endpoints, so it's really easy to search and find. And what I want to do also is help you, Eugene, a bit with the documentation. And I read your blog post, and essentially when you started with serverless, you started with Firebase, and you migrated to Cloudflare. And I believe it was because of the huge bill that you were getting from Firebase, and also to simplify the billing, or better understand the billing and how serverless platform was charging you. So what we're expecting to find here is really two different types of APIs, one for Firebase and one for Cloudflare. To help you, so let's see this first. So we have the get HTML from email, the list email endpoint, and then getting the URL for the email endpoint. To make my life easier, I'm going to filter the snippets of code by folder, so we only have the Cloudflare APIs. So I'm going to create a collection, which is basically a YouTube playlist of snippets of code, and will serve as documentation. So I'm going to collect and add them, all the endpoints for Cloudflare, into this collection. So let me see, this snippet is about, okay, so this is the error handler response. 8 endpoints, I'm not going to add that. And I'm going to add this one, which, yeah, it looks like it has a response status code for Express. So that's an endpoint. Cool, so now that we've done that, I'm going to do the same thing for, well, actually, let me show you our audience what a collection looks like. This is a collection. So basically, it very much looks like a documentation, but you have snippets of code. Each of the snippets of code represents one of the endpoints from Cloudflare. You have the get HTML content from the email, the list email endpoint. So now, okay, let's do the same thing for Firebase. I'm going to filter the snippets by the Firebase folder and create a new collection for the Firebase Mail API this time. So this looks like a endpoint 2, this one 2, and this one 2. All right, let's go back to our collections. Now we have 2 collections, as I mentioned, 2 APIs, Firebase and Cloudflare for the Mail API. So what would be really helpful with the endpoints is finding the route. So I'm going to look for the route definition. And because I know you're using Express, you should be importing those files. And so cool, we have the routes for listing mails and getting the emails. So by default, Quad AI searches using AI, so we have a lot of results, but we can always change that by using the code modifier and search for exact code. So now we only have 2 results, and we have the routes for Firebase and Cloudflare. So I'll add this one to Cloudflare. And I'll add So now that we have all the endpoints, we should have the routing at the bottom, but it'd be nice to bring it all the way up top. So I'll rearrange this because it will give a nice overview to better understand the Firebase APIs. Cool. So now let's have a look to have a better idea of the endpoints. Let's deep dive into one of the endpoints, specifically the email retrieval endpoint. So I think it's get key or get HTML. So we can open that in Quad AI, but we can also to read the full snippets, but we can also open in VS Code, which I already checked out the code, so I can see that directly in VS Code. So we have some validation at the beginning, the unique identifier for the email, and you basically get the body of the email in HTML or plain text. Okay, so that makes a lot of sense. We have the reader variable, which is I read from your blog post that this is basically a wrapper around the Mailgun API. So this is something that I thought was really interesting from reading your blog post. I discovered this functionality of Mailgun through looking at the code from Inboxkitten. Basically, a lot of people, and myself definitely think about Mailgun as this provider to send emails, and I had no idea that they also had a API to actually receive email. So that's very clever. And you're basically using Mailgun as the storage backend for the Mail Inboxkitten service. Let's have a little fun. Let's see if Inboxkitten supports SendGrid. So if we search for SendGrid here, we're not going to find any results. But Quad AI is able to make some interesting and quite relevant suggestions, like Mailgun, obviously, and the Mail API. So this is kind of like a did you mean search for Google, but for code. Let's search for Mailgun. So we land on the Mailgun wrapper, API wrapper. Cool. So let's now look at another API, maybe the email list API. So I'm going to search for mail list. Okay. And so here we have the mail list API from Firebase. That's the API that's being called when you look at your inbox on Inboxkitten. So here you parse the parameters, do some validation, extract the username, the unique username from the email address. And then here you retrieve the emails. And I guess in Mailgun, the emails are called events in their API. Okay, now that we looked at the API, let's have a look at the view side, the front end. So that should be fairly easy. We can just filter the .view files. And here we land on the view that displays your messages, the emails themselves. We have the subject, senders, and then yeah, this is the message, the body of the email, and it's wrapped into an iframe. If you too like to debug in production, give us a like, comment, or subscribe. Thank you.